Welcome to the Mighty Oak Show today. Glad to have you with me and looking forward to a great episode, one that I hope will be a helpful episode. And I believe all of our episodes are helpful, but certainly today the goal is to provide some resources to you that can be a help in your journey. Perhaps you are a veteran, maybe an active duty service member, a first responder, someone who would be interested in the programs of the Mighty Oaks Foundation. We've got some things that will be a help to you. Maybe you're a friend or a family member, a loved one, someone outside of the military and those other areas that we discuss often, but you know someone who needs help and you need some resources, some places to push them. We're going to talk about that and more today, but just so glad to have you with us. This has been a busy time of year for us, and I'm sure for you, and so thankful that you would stop and spend some time with us. Looking forward to this conversation, but before we get there, I want to remind you to take some time, if you're listening, to go over to YouTube. You can find us. Go to YouTube, search for Mighty Oaks Foundation. You'll find our channel there, and so much content. I'll talk about that in just a minute, but so much content there. Make sure that you subscribe, then hit the notification bell. Subscribing is good, but you have to go find those shows or those channels that you're subscribed to. We want you to subscribe, but we also then want you to go and hit that notification bell. Then you will be notified when new content comes online. And very excited to be able to have a place where we can produce content. I know that we all talk about how difficult social media is and social media companies and all the rest, and certainly there are problems. But I'll tell you this, we have had the opportunity through platforms like YouTube and Facebook and so many others to produce and then push out content that's been a help to many. And we want you to join us there. Thank you for doing that, and look forward to continuing this conversation with you over there. But that being said, I know many of you are listening to this conversation and not watching. Thank you for listening. For our listeners over at Mojo 50, thank you for your faithful support. You guys are great, and you continue to listen and support us. We have so many folks who listen there. Let us know that they're listening and are supporting the mission of the Mighty Oaks Foundation and all that we do, and grateful for you guys. I was thinking about Mojo earlier this week. Man, what a great lineup of shows and hosts and content. Fairly eclectic, a lot of good stuff from many different angles and many different voices and many different personalities, and we're blessed to be a part of what's happening there. Thank you for listening to the shows that we bring every week. I want to take a few minutes today to talk about many of the things that we've been involved in, and for those outside of the regular Mighty Oaks Foundation bubble, maybe this is a little bit unusual, but I know that many of you have folks who could benefit from this. Maybe you could benefit from this. So we want to talk about some things. Again, for those that are listening to the podcast version of this, thank you for doing that. For those watching on YouTube, thank you for doing that as well. The Mighty Oaks Foundation has been involved in a bunch of stuff. I don't know a simpler way to put it. A bunch of stuff over the last several months. And man, we talk about everything that we do, and it's hard to follow along. For those of you that are following along at home, as we used to say, it's hard to follow along. There's a lot going on. So I wanted to take some time today to break down some of the big pieces, some of the things that you may have missed over the last couple of months that we're involved in. And I want to start breaking this down for you, but if you can't stick around for the whole thing, do this at least. Go to the Mighty Oaks Programs page, mightyoaksprograms.org, mightyoaksprograms.org. You'll find all these things listed there as well. But I want to break some of this down for you. And again, we have been blessed to provide resources to so many, and we're continuing to do that. Here is the first resource, and really the foundation of everything that we do. That is our programs. Our programs here at the Mighty Oaks Foundation, they are the foundation of our foundation. They are the bedrock of what we do. If we were to strip everything else away and only do one thing, our programs are what we would do. I say programs, it's one program, but it's broken up into parts. We have programs for men, a men's program. We have a women's program. We have programs specifically aimed toward veterans and active duty service members, programs directed toward those in the first responder community, and we continue to grow in each one of these areas. If you've been listening, you know that last year for us, just like it was for so many people, was difficult. COVID, something we're still dealing with and talking about, but it's been hard for organizations like ours that need to have in-person programming to function and to figure things out. And we've done a lot of things to work around that. Thankfully, this year we have been given the opportunity to go back to each one of our locations. We're back completely live. The virtual piece is fine, but not nearly as helpful as the in-person piece. And we've had the opportunity to be in person across the country, from California to Texas, to Ohio, to Virginia. We've done programs even this year in some other states. We are back in person, and it's been awesome to see that happen. We've had hundreds of military veterans and active duty service members and first responders come to so many of our programs across the country. And it's been amazing to see that happen. And again, this is the foundation of what we do. These are the programs where we bring men and women who are struggling with trauma related to either their life. So many of them, it's their life. Maybe it's their transition out of their military service or out of their service as a first responder. Maybe it's something that happened as a result of their service. Maybe it's something that happened in their family as a result of a family member, a spouse's service. Whatever the case, these programs that we talk about happen at one of the locations that we have across the country. We spend a week talking about what trauma is and what it's not. We deconstruct some of that. We give hope, we give direction, we give support, and we help men and women who have struggled get back on their feet and begin to move forward in a meaningful way. Those are our programs. Again, we plural programs because it's broken down, but the core of that is exactly the same. This is what's happened to you. We can't diminish that. We're not going to try to forget it, but it doesn't need to control you. Here's how we get back on track. We align to the purpose for which we were created, and we move forward together with the resources that we need, but we move forward. And that is the heart of what we do. Now, it's been great to see so many things happen. We've had expanded capacity in all of our programs as we've added locations, as we've added staff, and we continue to build staff. And God has brought some amazing people along that makes this happen. And man, it's been just really very humbling to watch from very simple, very humble beginnings to where we are now. It's been amazing to see those who have come along and make this possible so we can have bigger programs and more people and involve more, and that's awesome. We're back to full capacity, as I mentioned, but really one of the areas I wanted to focus on was our first responders area. This has been crazy to see. I'll give you one example. The Tulsa Police Department in Tulsa, Oklahoma, struggled, as many police departments have across the country this last year, having a police officer killed, another shot and injured, many of the riots and all of the other conversations we've had about law enforcement over the last year, a lot of hurt in that police department. And thankfully, this is just one of many, just an example. We've had the opportunity through our first responders program to have many of the men and women from the Tulsa Police Department attend a program, find hope, find healing, get back to a place of health, and in many cases get back engaged in the work that is so important that they're involved in. And it's been great to be able to see that Mighty Oaks is on the front line engaging what's happening in our culture, what's happening in our country, what's happening in real time. We've had the opportunity to engage with that, and it's been awesome. So our programs, those have been happening, and it can, if we're not careful, it's possible to see all of the other things that are happening and ask the question, are programs still taking place? Are people still being helped? The answer is yes. None of that has stopped. If anything, we've pushed on the gas and we're doing more than ever before. And it's been absolutely incredible. The next thing I want to point out to you, though, is something that we've added as a platform for resources, but haven't yet called attention to it. We will. Again, lots happening. We'll call attention to it. We haven't done that yet, but we will. We know that at our maximum capacity with programs, we'll never have everyone attend that needs to attend. I've been asked the question before, do you believe that you can end veteran suicide? Can Mighty Oaks end veteran suicide? And my answer to that question is yes. If every veteran and every active duty service member in America came through one of our programs, I believe we could effectively end veteran suicide. I believe that. But here's the apparent, very clear challenge to that. We'll never have the opportunity, as much as we try, as much money as we raise, as hard as we work, we will never have the opportunity to see every one of the more than 20 million veterans in the United States come through a program. We'll never see every active duty service member come through a program. We'll work with the first responder community, but we'll never have every first responder in America come to a program. So, will we end veteran suicide? I believe we could in a perfect world, but that perfect world doesn't exist. So, what we've decided over the years is to provide as many resources as possible for those who cannot attend a program. We have written books. You can find those books on our website. You can find those books on Amazon. We've written books about resiliency, spiritual resiliency, being resilient in the face of the difficulties of life. We've written books about post-traumatic stress disorder and how to overcome the trauma of life. We've written books on leadership and moving forward and so many of the principles that we need to understand to live the life we were created to live. We've written a lot. We have a blog that we have contributors from all over the country, from organizations and churches. A lot of folks contribute to that. That's on our website as well. But more and more and more, we are providing content like this: video content, audio content, testimonies, stories that we like to call features, because the stories are really what we feature. We have programs like this one. Chad has his own podcast that's also on video. I have another podcast that's also on video. We have a marriage podcast I do with my wife, also on video. So much stuff, so much content. We provide all of that. We work very hard and invest financially so that the men and women who need what we provide but can't get to a program have access to it. And in many cases, it's a family member, it's a loved one, it's someone who cares about those who need help but can't get them to a program, that need resources. We do our best to provide resources for you and for the folks that you care about. We do all of that, and it's all over the place. If you go to our social media, you'll see that we've got programs happening all the time, and we've got videos coming out all of the time, and great content being produced all of the time. But the problem sometimes is finding that content. I'll tell you to go to YouTube, and I do that all the time. Go to YouTube. Follow us on social media. You need to follow us on Facebook and on Instagram. And if you still want to, on Twitter, we're there too. We're in a lot of places. You can follow us everywhere, but we've made it as easy as possible for you to find all of this content in one place. And I'm very, very excited that we have developed, our team has developed a platform for all of this content to be found in one place. And we call it simply Watch. Real easy, right? Watch. We know our audience. We know it has to be simple. It's watch. And what we want you to do is go to our website, mightyoaksprograms.org. Near the header, you'll see all the categories of content that we have available for you. You can fill out an application for our program. You can learn more about who we are. You can look into our board of directors. Whatever information you want, you can give financially. There's also a place there that simply says, again, watch. And when you go to that, you click on that, what will come up is all of our video content. It's there. Going back several years, you can find it all. It's a beautiful platform. Looks very similar to a Netflix-style platform. It's not Netflix, but very similar to that style of platform. And you can find all of our shows. You can find our video content. In the features section, you can find our great testimonies from men and women who have been helped as they've understood who they are in Christ and understood how to align their lives to the life God has created them to live. You'll find all of it there. It's amazing. And we're continuing to add content there. We're continuing to catalog the content so that you can search by keyword and key terms, so that if you're looking for something specific, a show or content specific to an issue, you'll find it there. And man, so thankful that we have the opportunity to invest in that. And I'll tell you, it's not easy. Not only does it require a lot of time, it requires a lot of financial investment, and that's how we look at it. We look at it as an investment. It requires so many pieces that are moving all the time. You wouldn't believe it if I tried to sit here and explain it to you, because I don't understand it entirely. But so much has come together to make that happen, and we want to make sure that you have access to that. And just like everything we do through the Mighty Oaks Foundation is free to you. No, we're not asking you to pay for it. We're not asking you to sign up for premium content. Nothing like that. It's all premium. It's all great. And it's all there. MightyOaksPrograms.org. That's our website. You can find the Watch tab. And this show, Chad's podcast, my podcast, the March or Die Show, is there. The podcast I do with my wife is there. The testimonials that we have recorded, they're all there. And I would encourage you, please go and check those out. You can find our blog there as well. So many other resources available to you. So excited about Watch. Check that out, and we'll continue to add to that, and we're committed to that platform, which takes me to the next thing. It's another show, and one that you may be familiar with, you may not be familiar with. It's a show that we have been working on really for the last couple of years, called The Situation Report. This is a different style of show for us. It's an interview show. It's a short format, 30 minutes, but it has been fantastic. Chad and I are the co-hosts of that, and really our tagline there is giving you the information that you need to navigate an ever-changing culture. That's the tagline of The Situation Report, giving you the information you need to navigate an ever-changing culture. Situation Report, I'd encourage you to go check that out. You can find that as well on the Watch platform found on our website. You can find that on Salem Media. That's where that is housed, Salem Media. And you can find those shows there. You can also find the Situation Report social media if you go to Instagram or Facebook. And we continue to push that out as well on our platforms. But this has been a great show for us. These guests really that come on this show are gracious to us. They're big name guests that you will have probably heard of, at least some of them. And they do that to have a great conversation with us, to help us kind of deconstruct many of the things that are happening in culture right now. But we do that so that we have the opportunity to speak to important issues and get out in front of more folks so that we can tell more people what we do at the Mighty Oaks Foundation. It's been incredible. Some of the guests that we've had, I was going to talk about some of these. We've had, like 2 years of guests, but we've had some incredible guests on with us. Sebastian Gorka was just on with us just a week ago, and man, what an incredible guest. Sebastian, if you haven't listened to him, you need to. Check out that Situation Report episode, but check out his other content. Someone who came from a military background, served with the British military, has done a lot of reading and writing and understanding of international policies and international intelligence agencies and aspects that impact the United States, served as an advisor to the Trump campaign, and now has his own radio show. Incredible guest. We have recently had on Brandon Tatum. If you're not familiar with Brandon Tatum, and I think, again, most of you would be, he speaks on a lot of issues. He speaks on the race issue in the United States. He speaks on being a police officer. He was a police officer in Arizona, and speaks to that. So many other cultural issues. I mean, it runs the gambit. He came on and talked to us about policing in the United States, and what an incredible conversation. His perspective on policing in the United States, and so many great conversations around that on the Situation Report. We recently had on Stu Bregeer from The Blaze and the Blaze Network. Stu has been with Glenn Beck, I think since the very beginning, since the radio days, years and years ago. Supports Glenn Beck. They do a show together, has his own show, and several other pieces of content that he produces through the Blaze Network. Again, an amazing conversation that we had with him. Frank Gaffney has been on with us. Frank is, again, someone that many of you would know, spent many years talking about immigration and the various aspects of immigration from all over the world, continues to write and speak on that, and has advised presidents and politicians and write, and he's been a great friend to us as well. Dinesh D'Souza, someone that I'm sure you're familiar with, was a guest not too long ago, and another great conversation. This is a sampling. So many incredible guests we've had on the Situation Report, and I want to ask you to please go check that out. Find it on Salem Media, and you can find it there. Find it again through Watch, our platform on our website. If you haven't heard of it, because I just spent like 15 minutes telling you about it, Watch, mightyoaksprograms.org. You can go find Watch, and that's there as well. So that is there for you. That's happening. And man, so much happening, of course. Those things are taking place. Our programs, the Watch platform, the Situation Report, a new show for us. And then our documentary. Our documentary is something that we released back in May. And it's important to keep in mind when it was released, late May, early June. And the timing is important because that happened before everything that's taking place in Afghanistan. And I'll get to that in just a second. But our documentary came out. Man, we've we put everything we had behind it, and then it kind of has gotten lost in the shuffle. But we are re-promoting our documentary, and I want to encourage you to go and check that out. Go to our website. That's the easiest place to find it, mightyoaksprograms.org. The banner there is the Mighty Oaks documentary. You can click on that, and it will take you to that. Again, that's something we invested in, something we have spent almost 2 years producing, and it's great, but it's free to you. I say all of that to say it's cost a lot, but it's free to you, a resource that we want you to use. It tells the Mighty Oaks story, starts with the story of our founder, Chad Robichaux, and his family, and really outlines what took place from his story forward, developing the Mighty Oaks Foundation, and then what happens through the programs of the Mighty Oaks Foundation, how we help men and women, so many of whom are absolutely hopeless, absolutely desperate, many of whom have attempted to take their own lives, and we've had the opportunity to confront so much of that darkness and so much of that difficulty and help them get back on their feet and move forward in a great way. Our documentary tells that story, and so many have talked about how they watched that documentary. We've had since late May, early June, we've had numbers of folks come to one of our programs because they saw the documentary. Others who have found hope, they've expressed for the first time in many years because they saw that documentary. And we made that available for that to happen. And again, God has used this in an incredible way. I want to tell you, if you are someone who's not sure about attending a program, but you think maybe you should, you fall into one of our categories, veteran, active duty service member, first responder, or the spouse of one of those, you know you should probably attend a program, but you're hesitant, go check out the documentary. It's there for you. We did what we did. We invested the way that we did. We've worked as hard as we have so that you have that resource available to you. Go check it out, mightyoaksprograms.org. Check out the documentary. It's there for you. Now, perhaps you're not a veteran, an active duty service member, a first responder, or a spouse of one of those, but you care about someone. You've got someone in your life that falls into one of those categories. A question that I'm asked all of the time is something like this. It would be phrased differently perhaps from person to person, but something like this. How can I help a loved one who has served in the military, who's currently in the military, who's in law enforcement or in the fire service, they're in the first responder community, they're married to someone who is, they're struggling, so much difficulty there. How can I help them if I can't get them to a program? One of the ways that you can help them is by pointing them to this documentary. Now, I've sent you to our website. I've asked you to go to our website to find it. Not only have we worked to develop this documentary, we've worked to make it available on as many platforms as possible. You'll find it on many of the streaming services. We're continuing to get it pushed out to the streaming services, and we are working with a great organization, a great company that's helping to make that happen. So as you present this documentary to folks that you know, that you care about, that need help, but aren't maybe getting the help that they need, maybe they won't listen to you or listen to other people, this is a documentary that's on streaming platforms. It's available out there for everyone. It's been seen by many. It's a real easy way to introduce the work of the Mighty Oaks Foundation to them, because really it tells the story of what it's like to be a veteran, what it's like to come out of the military, what it's like to be a first responder, what it's like to struggle with so many of these thoughts and so many of these issues and not know where to turn. We wrap what we do right in the middle of that thing, but really it's about giving hope. So why don't you check it out? It's about 35 minutes long. Go check it out and then take the link and send the link out to someone that you care about. Share that with them. You'll be very happy that you did. Now, you're not responsible for whether or not they watch it. I know that. But if you send a resource like this, it's so well done. It's a beautiful just documentary. If you just like documentaries, don't even care about the content, I'll sit down, and my kids hate it. I'll sit down. We have a documentary channel, and I love it. I'd park there all day if I could. I don't even care what the documentary is about. I just like learning about people, and particularly when the documentary is done well. It's awesome. I'll tell you what, this is a well-done documentary. It's beautiful, and even if you don't care about the content, I know you do though, so send it to people that you care about and share that out. Maybe that's not you. Maybe you don't fall into either one of those categories, but you care about military service members, do us a favor. Just share it out. Share it to friends. Share it to family. There's a lot of ways that you can be involved in what we're doing, and we would love to share that content with you, and it's awesome to be able to do that. One of the things that we've been working on in the last really month or so, we haven't done a very good job of hiding, so if you're following our social media, I'm sure that you are aware that we've been very involved as an organization in many of the efforts in Afghanistan. Whether you agree with the way our government, our presidential administration handled what happened in Afghanistan or not, you agree, you don't agree. I think if the numbers are right, most Americans don't agree with how it was handled, but whether you agree with it or not is absolutely irrelevant. One of the things we all understand by watching what has unfolded in Afghanistan is that a lot of very good people were put in a very bad situation because of the decisions that were made and the process that our administration followed to get us out of Afghanistan. Again, we could spend all day talking about whether or not we should have been there, whether or not we should have been there in the first place, whether or not we should have stayed, whether or not we should have left the way that we did. I have opinions and you have opinions. Let me know. We can talk about those at some point, but that's not the point of what we've been involved in. What we learned early on in this process was that because of the decisions that were made, many thousands of folks who have worked with the United States military over 20 years were going to be left behind. Now, again, I know a lot of misunderstanding has gone along with this. In order for the United States military to do the work that it has done in Afghanistan, and this would be anywhere, but we're talking about Afghanistan, in order for the United States military to do the work that we've been able to do as a military in that country for the last 20 years, we had to have local support. There's no other way that it could have happened. Again, maybe you don't like the effort, maybe you're against what's happened there. I don't agree with everything that's happened in the last 20 years, but I will tell you this, there hasn't been another 9/11 since we went to Afghanistan. We caught the bad guys, we killed a bunch of them, maybe we shouldn't have stayed as long as we should have. We could argue all of that, but I know some very good men and women wearing our uniforms have been there and done really good work and done it in a way that represented the United States well. But they could not have done that good work were it not for local supporters. Men and women who have come along as interpreters, who have come along to support the efforts of the United States there. And again, they did this as people living in a country that they saw ravaged by terrorists. They found hope because the United States, who represents hope and freedom, came to their country. And in so many ways, we allowed a government to form. We allowed citizens to vote. We allowed women to go out in public. We allowed a lot of things to happen because of our presence there. And so these folks came along and supported the efforts, again, as interpreters and in other, many hundreds of other support roles. They came along, they supported what we were doing. In many ways, they put their own lives on the line because they're living on the battlefield. This isn't a place they go to. This is where they live. Supporting us puts them and their families at risk, and yet they still did it because they believed that on the other side there would be freedom and they'd be able to build the country that they wanted. They were also promised over the years that if they supported us, they would be given special immigrant visas, SIVs, special immigrant visas, to come to the United States in the event or when we eventually pulled our troops out. This was the bargain that was made. This was the promise. They put themselves and their families at risk so that when all was said and done, they would have either a free democratic society or an opportunity to get to one. That was the agreement that was made. We learned early on in this process that those SIVs, those special immigrant visas, those who had applied, many of whom held it in their hands, and by the way, many thousands of American citizens were going to be left in place. No opportunity to be evacuated, no opportunity to get out, and they know what happens when we're gone and they're still there. There will be those who will retaliate against them. The terrorists will take over again, as we've seen happen, and they'll lose their lives, which, again, we've seen happen. So we, along with some other organizations, decided we weren't going to allow that to happen. So many in our organization have served in Afghanistan. Many of the men and women that we served in Afghanistan, and many, many, many of them have relationships with interpreters and others who are Afghan, who supported us and protected us and helped us while we were there. So we wanted to do our part to get those folks out. These are people, again, that have served with the United States military, that have been vetted and cleared by the United States military, that held immigrant visas given to us, or given to them rather, by our State Department. And then the Americans, of course, that need a way home. We decided we would do everything that we could to get over there and help them get out. And man, an incredible effort. And this was not just the Mighty Oaks Foundation. This was many wonderful organizations that came together. And I will tell you, the Mighty Oaks Foundation really led in this regard. But a lot of folks have come together, many donating, many giving of their time and talent to make this happen. Other organizations using everything they had as an organization to come together and make this happen. An incredible effort, and one that I think history will look well upon, we'll smile upon, and we've been involved in that. We formed a coalition called Save Our Allies. Save Our Allies is the coalition of organizations that came together to make this happen, and we've been privileged to be a part of that. Thousands of folks were evacuated, thousands of folks are being resettled, and we see this effort continuing to take place. We've been involved in that, and thankfully so. Our president and founder, Chad Robichaux, been very, very vocal about this and very involved in this. I'm sure that you've seen it if you follow any of our social media. It's all out there. And Save Our Allies, the coalition, is now in the process, and really by the time this video goes out, I would imagine will be established as Save Our Allies, the 501c3, the nonprofit organization. SaveOurAllies.org is the website where you can find out all that's going on there. You can also find Save Our Allies on all of the social media platforms, and I would encourage you to go and check that out. There's so much we could talk about here, and we've even done a show recently about what took place there. But someone made the statement, I can't remember who it was, I think it was Glenn Beck actually that made the statement. As the events in Afghanistan have unfolded, we've seen both the worst of America and the best of America on display. And man, what a great way to put it. The worst of America, really turning a difficult situation into a horrible situation, but the best of America. Seeing men and women really with nothing to gain in the process, leveraging everything they have to support other human beings who needed to get to a safe place. And it's been great to be a part of that. We'll continue to be a part of that. We are very involved, of course, with Save Our Allies, but it's been awesome to see that organization, which was a coalition of organizations, come together and now stand on its own 2 feet in basically like a month and a half. It's been amazing, and we'll continue to do that work. So go check them out, Save Our Allies, SaveOurAllies.org. And I think you'll be glad that you did. So much good work going on there. Man, a lot of stuff. I just threw a whole bunch of words at you, talked about a lot of things that are going on and have gone on. And I want to give you one more because this is coming up in just a couple of weeks. Every year, and we typically do an entire show about this, we won't this year, but every year we have a one-time fundraising event. We do one fundraising event a year, and it is our Mighty Oaks Gala held in the Woodlands in Texas. If you're familiar with Texas, and many of you are, many of you are, but right outside of Houston is the Woodlands. In the Woodlands, we have our Mighty Oaks Gala, and that's a wonderful opportunity for us to talk about what's happened during this year, for us to look forward and talk about what we see happening in the coming year, and to gather folks. It's a beautiful event. It's a wonderful event. Great dinner. This year's guest is Steve Green, the president of Hobby Lobby. I've heard him speak. He's been very involved with us and been very supportive, which we're so grateful for. He's going to be our keynote speaker this year. Chad Robichaux, of course, will speak. He'll give an address of kind of where we are as an organization and what he sees happening in the coming months. I will MC it. I promise to speak more slowly than I have over the last 30 minutes or so and use fewer words, so it's going to be great. We'll have a great meal. It's going to be a wonderful time. I would encourage you, if you are in that area, if you're near the Woodlands and you are so inclined, go to our website, mightyoaksprograms.org. You'll find a place where you can get more information about that event coming up in about 2 weeks. So we're kind of in the final run-up to that and looking forward to what will happen there. So many great things going on with our organization, and I know this is a bit of an unusual show, particularly for the radio listeners, but there is a lot happening, and we want to make sure that you know what's happening. I am asked all of the time, where can we find help? Where can we get resources? Where can we find hope? Where can we point people to? And we do all of this media, and sometimes we just need to stop and say there are a lot of places that you can get help, you can get hope, you can find resources, and we would love to partner with you as you try to help those in your life. Maybe you are someone who's struggled, and I know what it's like. Perhaps you've never shared with anyone that you're struggling. You have thoughts, regrets, you experience what you might define, if you were to define it as depression, things that you've never shared and don't want to share. Listen, we are an organization made up of folks who know what it's like to struggle, know what it's like to have thoughts that you don't want to share with anyone else, and we find the opportunity to come together and to collectively get hope and help and direction and purpose. And we want to offer that to you. If you know someone that needs that, certainly we'd offer that to you as well. And you can find all of that and everything I just talked about on our website, mightyoaksprograms.org. That's there for you. Those videos, of course, under the Watch tab, and so much other stuff. You'd say, well, I don't know anyone who is a veteran. I'm not a veteran, but I love what you guys are doing. There are other ways to support as well. One of the benefits of the blessing of God, I don't know how else to put it, has been that we provide all of our programs free of charge to those who attend. No charge for the program. And because we know that sometimes travel is an obstacle, we'll even pay the cost of travel. We do all the logistics to get you there. We'll get your plane ticket. We'll tell you when to be at the airport. We'll pick you up at the airport on the other side. We make all of that happen so that you can get the help that you need, or those that you know can get the help that they need. And we want to provide that to you. So please go check that out. That would be awesome. If there's anything else that we can do for you, please let us know. You can find us on our website, of course, as I just mentioned, or by sending an email to info@mightyoaksprograms.org. info@mightyoaksprograms.org. We'll get that to you and forward it on to the right place. And again, appreciate you listening. Thank you for watching. If you're listening and not watching, take some time to go over to YouTube. You can find us there. You can follow along on Watch off of our website, and look forward to sharing more time like this together with you. Thank you, and we will talk to you next week.